Breaking news, a man set himself on fire across the street from the courthouse where Trump's criminal trial continues. Congressman Mike Gallagher is stepping down from Congress today. What's the Wisconsin lawmaker's legacy and why is he making the move now? The Chinese regime is rolling out a new military force for handling network info systems. What does it mean for cyber warfare as FBI is sounding the alarm on Chinese hackers gearing up to hit vital U.S. systems? Democrats help Republicans advance $95 billion of foreign aid for Israel, Ukraine, and the Indo-Pacific, as well as a measure that could ban TikTok. NTD's Washington correspondent Luis Martinez will bring us more. Tesla is recalling nearly 4,000 cyber trucks due to a safety issue. The company says the truck's accelerator pedal can get stuck. Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. Breaking news. A man appears to have set himself on fire outside the courthouse of former President Trump's hush money trial. A warning, this graphic footage could be disturbing for some viewers. It happened at around 1:35 p.m. A man reportedly threw pamphlets in the air at Collect Pond Park, then doused himself in a liquid and set himself on fire. At least one person rushed to put out the fire with a fire extinguisher. Emergency crews then rushed the individual away on a stretcher. In the pamphlets, a man who claims to be an investigative researcher named Max Azzarello said he would self-immolate. Some of the pamphlets also reference former President George W. Bush and former Vice President Al Gore. Further details surrounding the incident and the man's motive are still unclear. New York Police Department officials are set to give a briefing soon. They say there are currently no threats to public safety. Trump's criminal trial continues in the courthouse across the street from the incident. The former president was notified about the fire. And NYPD will soon have a press conference on this incident, as we just mentioned. We'll bring you the latest on that. Both Israel and Iran have a muted response to the airstrikes on Iran last night. Both nations are downplaying an airstrike on a nuclear facility and military base in central Iran. Tensions between the two countries continue to rise following a strike that killed 2 Iranian generals in Syria earlier this month. Iran retaliated. In its first ever direct attack into Israel, it fired more than 300 missiles and attack drones Saturday night. As for the strike last night, an Iranian state media says the nuclear areas were fully safe. That statement was confirmed by the UN. Iranian leaders did not blame Israel for the strike. Israel also made no comment about the attack. The White House was informed of a potential attack. However, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. wasn't a part of the operation.
The United States has not been involved in any offensive operations. What we're focused on, what the G7 is focused on, and again, it's reflected in our statement and in our conversation, is our work to de-escalate tensions, to de-escalate from any potential conflict.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre refused to make any comment on the reports from the Middle East at this afternoon's press briefing. And the foreign aid package for Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine has passed a procedural vote. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez joins us now live from the Capitol with the latest reactions. Luis, what can you tell us about today's vote?
Yes, well, with 316 votes in favor and 94 votes against, the procedural vote to advance with Speaker Johnson's plan to send supplemented foreign aid to Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine was approved in the House of Representatives despite opposition from House Republicans. Right before votes were casted, I spoke with Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar, a Republican from Florida, who sits in the Committee of Foreign Affairs, and she downplayed the division within the Republican Party. Let's listen.
Republicans are united except 2 or 3 people that are just voting in a way that we don't understand. We are the United States. We have to behave accordingly. No more of this nonsense.
Well, most of the 55 Republicans who voted against this procedural vote voted against the package or the proposal by Speaker Johnson because it lacked border security provisions. After the vote, I caught up with Congresswoman Salazar once again and asked her what she had to say to those conservative critics who wanted to see border security on the bill. Let's listen to what she had to say. What do you have to say to those people who are begging for border security and it's not included in this bill?
Well, I agree that we have to secure the border, and that's why I have introduced legislation. And yeah, border security is a #1 priority for this country. Yeah, but the fact that we have that responsibility, that does not mean that you cannot assume or pay attention to other responsibilities that we have as the leader of the free world.
It's worth mentioning that more than 150 House Republicans voted in favor of the procedural vote to advance with Speaker Johnson's plan for supplemental aid for Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine. That means that more Republicans voted in favor of supplemental aid to these three countries that they voted in favor to reauthorize the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act last week or a month ago when they went through the appropriations process. I think that's worth mentioning.
Now, it seems that for the last 3 major votes in the House of Representatives, more Republicans have voted with Democrats than against their policy proposals. What are Republicans saying about this bipartisanship?
That is correct, Steph. Right before the vote, I also caught up with Congressman Mark Green, the chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security, Republican from Tennessee. I asked him if this is a coalition government that we're seeing in the House of Representatives. Let's listen to what he had to say about it. Congressman, are we seeing a coalition government?
That's a very good question. We'll have to see how this vote comes out. It'll tell you the answer right away, won't it?
Right after votes were casted, I caught up with the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, Representative Bob Good, and also spoke with Congressman Matt Gaetz, member of the Freedom Caucus, asked him the same question, whether or not this was a coalition government. Let's listen to what both members and chairman of the Freedom Caucus had to say about this.
Since Mike Johnson,
Sorry, what did you say?
Coalition government in the House?
Yes. I think I've been very public and consistent that I am not in favor of that. Here we are once again. We just passed a rule with predominantly Democrat votes. The bill, I believe, will also be predominantly Democrat votes tomorrow.
Congressman, are we seeing a coalition government, or at least in the House?
It seems as though the coalition to proceed onto this foreign aid bill doesn't include House conservatives. And I think that's going to rile a lot of Republican voters.
Well, the votes demonstrate that over 300 congressmen of the 435 voted in favor, both Democrats and Republicans, showing that this might actually be a coalition government. Of course, Congressman Bob Good and Congressman Matt Gaetz expect the same numbers to repeat themselves in Saturday's vote, which would actually send the legislation to the Senate if approved by the House of Representatives. Steph?
Yeah, Luis, some in the right flank of the Republican Party aren't happy with the leadership of Speaker Johnson. What can you tell us about the motion to vacate filed by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene? What are Freedom Caucus members saying?
Most of House Republicans, especially those in the right flank of the Republican Party, have expressed discontent with Speaker Johnson's priorities and policies, but only 3 congressmen have actually openly stated that they would support a motion to oust Speaker Johnson. That is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, who submitted the motion over 3 weeks ago. Then there's Congressman Tom Massey from Kentucky and Paul Gosar from Arizona, who today announced that he would too support a motion to vacate. But right after votes were casted, I spoke with Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna, Republican from Florida, asked her the question if she would support a motion to vacate Speaker Johnson, being a member of the Freedom Caucus, and this is what she had to say. Let's listen.
I'm not going to comment on that unless it's called up, but what I can tell you is, we have to turn this around immediately. I think that Johnson, I don't know what's going on with him, but this is not what he promises when he was Speaker.
So today we saw a procedural vote to advance a supplemental aid package on the House floor. On Saturday, congressmen are set to debate and vote on a final bill. If 4 bills, one for Israel, one for Taiwan, one for Ukraine, and a 4th one called or dubbed a sidecar bill with Republican priorities, if they are all passed, they will be lumped in together into one package and sent to the Senate floor. Steph, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Luis. Death threats and late-night swatting could be part of the reason behind Representative Mike Gallagher's departure from Congress. NTD's Jason Perry has more. But I did just get word, I want to check in with my producer. It looks like we may be tuning into the NYPD's press conference on the apparent self-immolation today outside the courthouse of former President Trump's hush money trial. Let's see that now.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the male that's involved in this incident, his name is going to be Maxwell Azzarillo. Right, he's a male. He's born in 1987. His driver's license indicates that he's from St. Augustine, Florida. What we know from speaking to other witnesses and family members is that he arrived in New York sometime earlier in the week. We have his car being in St. Augustine, Florida on the 13th. So anywhere between the 13th and today, he arrived. We spoke to family members today. They were unaware that he was even in New York. As the fire commissioner stated, he's at Cornell Burn Center right now in likely condition. So the accelerant that was used, it appears to be some kind of alcohol-based substance that's used for cleaning. And that's all we have right now.
Carlos, why don't we go right down the line, left to right, and just we'll decide who's going to take what.
I wanted to ask about security. Obviously, there's about NYPD officers. Are you going to be putting more officers? Is there any change to the strategy of what the protocol was before?
Listen, Mark, after every incident, we have an after action, and we'll talk about if we're going to add officers or not. But just so you know, we had a lot of officers in the area. It is open to the public to still walk through the park, and so there was no security breach here at all.
Eric Thurston. Thanks, Chief. Any evidence of some political motivation here? Did the pamphlets give you any clues as to why this occurred?
The pamphlets seem to be propaganda-based, almost like a conspiracy theory type of pamphlet. Some information in regards to Ponzi schemes and the fact that some of our local educational institutes are fronts for the mob. So a little bit of a conspiracy theory going on here.
Rocco.
Chief, any indication if he was here in the park earlier in the week at all?
No, we're going to go through all August video, but what we've seen so far today, it appears that he walked from Leonard Street, he entered the park, walked into the middle of the park, and then committed the act.
Donald Miles.
Chief, do you speak with his family? Did they give you any other insight into his mental state, perhaps?
Very preliminary in dealing with the family so far. We just made notification to them that the incident had taken place.
Right back there.
How concerned are you that somebody was able to get this far in, light themselves on fire? Obviously, you said they're in critical condition right now. How concerning is that with all of these law enforcement around?
Yeah. Thank you. We're very concerned. Of course, we're going to review our security protocols. This gentleman did not breach the security protocols. The park was open to the public. But of course, we're going to look at everything, and with the magnitude of what's going on around right here, we'll reassess our security with our federal partners. Like I said, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the command. We'll talk to our federal partners, and we'll make decisions. If we need to tighten up security, maybe we'll shut down the park. This is something that we'll determine once we talk with all our partners, with the court officers, to make sure that with everything going on, the gravity of the event going on right now, we make sure we'll have ample security.
All right, Anthony DiLorenzo. So from the video and from eyewitnesses, it took a few minutes for the police officers to get there, to get their hands on fire extinguishers. Was there no FDNY presence already here because of the obvious person inside the courtroom? And is that something that maybe the FDNY wants to revisit in case there is some sort of another emergency like this where EMS or fire would have to respond immediately, because it took police officers to use fire extinguishers to get them out?
So Anthony, I'll give a piece of that to the fire commissioner, but obviously we're working in partnership with courts, FDNY, all of the city agencies that need to be over here are here. But you got to also remember the park's open to the public. So there was no reason for anybody to already have a fire extinguisher on standby. Nobody knew that this guy was about to light himself on fire. So 2 minutes is a pretty quick response time to be able to get to a vehicle, get a fire extinguisher, run around, get into the park, and start trying to extinguish this fire. All right. But as far as FDNY resources, I'll let Commissioner Kavanaugh just talk about what she may want to do.
Yeah, as they mentioned, obviously we'll work with NYPD to review what happened, and if additional resources are necessary, we will place them here. But typically for any kind of major security event, which this is, we have additional EMS resources on scene. Fire only sometimes. There usually is not a reason for that, as you typically would not have next to a public park, but we will work with NYPD to review that.
Was here and relayed the
I would have to confirm what time they responded. We'll get back to you, but we do typically in any kind of high security event have more EMS resources on scene because there could be patients for any reason.
All right, we're going to do 2 or 3 more. Right there.
Not everything that you see right here is part of the plan. There's a large security plan for this, and trust me, when we had our meetings before this took place, we met with FDNY, EMS, we met with our court partners, we met with Secret Service, so I'm not quite sure what else you're looking for.
Well, an ambulance, like, on standby.
Yeah, EMS and FDNY are in the area during this trial as well, and they're totally aware of what's going on, and our response time today was pretty quick.
Max, 10.
Do we know if the man said anything before, during the incident?
Sure, you want to talk about it?
As of right now, what we're showing is that he just walked directly into the park and began to throw the pamphlets in the air and then lit himself on fire. That could come out during our investigation. We have a lot of witnesses here. A lot of people are coming forward. We hope if more people come forward, we can put a little more information together. But as of right now, we don't have that he was making any statements.
Tim McKinney, CBS.
Yeah, we're looking through his social media and what he did online prior, and it appears that he did post something in regards to this event prior to the incident.
Dan Rivoli.
That's going to be my question, but to go off that on the internet posting for something like this trial, when you're gathering intelligence, is social media something you do look at? And obviously, I think one of the things we're looking at is the Substack post saying, "I'm the man," paraphrasing, but I'm the man who set himself on fire outside of Trump.
Yeah, all of his social media is going to be scrubbed. Obviously, we didn't know him prior to this incident. I can talk about the Detective Bureau. We didn't know him prior to this incident, but going back now, part of the investigation, all his social media, any associates, we'll be looking at all of that.
Is there any connection between this guy letting himself on fire and the Trump trial?
At this point, like I said, very preliminary. We don't have that.
Emily, we'll laugh.
As of right now, he's considered likely, which means he's very critical. His condition is not good, but as of right now, he's still alive.
Shayna.
Are you aware of any prior disturbing incidents involving this individual?
We're looking through that right now. As 5 minutes ago, before we started this press conference, I didn't see any criminal history in New York.
I know it hasn't been asked yet, but I just want Commissioner Daughtry to step in for a second and just talk about what he did immediately after to make sure that the area is safe.
Thank you, Commissioner Shepard. Immediately following this incident, I requested the bomb squad to come. I wanted the bomb squad to search this area for any possible secondary devices. They're actually doing this right now behind me with K9 checking all the vehicles. As of right now, there has been no additional devices found. There hasn't been any devices found, I'm sorry, in regards to this incident. So we'll be continuing to search this area. And as far as your question about enhanced security procedures, we're going to take that look into this. Maybe we may have to shut this area down, but that's something that we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation when we get back to One Police Plaza. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, last couple.
Can you talk about, just reiterate what personnel you do have on site right now?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about specific numbers, but obviously we're working with numerous city agencies and our federal partners over in this area. Obviously we're working with courts. We're working with the Secret Service. We're working with sanitation, whose building is right here. We're working with FDNY. So there's a lot of city agencies that are part of this, but we won't discuss what number of personnel we have out here. All right, last two.
Right in front.
Can you just share what you told Donald Trump's Secret Service detail, his team, what's shared with them?
We're not going to share a conversation that we had with Secret Service, but everyone involved in the trial inside is aware of the incident that took place outside today. Last one. Carlos, who do you want? That's on the investigation, but I'll let Chief Kenny talk about that.
Yeah, as of right now, on August camera, we have him walking to the park. That doesn't mean that he didn't either take the train here or come here, via a car. We do have a vehicle identified that's connected with him. We're currently searching for that car.
All right, last one.
All right, last question.
So the man was seen by multiple people carrying a sign that appeared to be somewhat anti-Trump, and earlier this week you guys blocked off barricades for Trump supporters protesting and leftists, and I noticed that he lit himself on fire on the Trump supporter side. Do you have any reason to believe that he was targeting Trump supporters?
As I think everybody who stepped up here said earlier, we do not believe he is. This was targeting any particular person or any particular group. We just right now labeling it as a sort of a conspiracy theorist, and we're going from there. But the investigation will continue.
Thanks,
all right,
everyone.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
Death threats and late-night swatting. Could it be part of the reason behind Representative Mike Gallagher's departure from Congress? NTD's Jason Perry has more.
He's stepping down today. 3 days ago, Gallagher said leaving Congress is just him wanting to prioritize being with his family, adding he signed up for, quote, the death threats and the late-night swatting, but they did not. Gallagher has been key in raising awareness of the threats posed by the Chinese Communist Party. The House Select China Committee, under his leadership, shined a light on various threats, from Beijing's growing military might to their efforts to steal Americans' genetic information. His departure leaves Republicans with an even thinner majority in the House, meaning Speaker Johnson can only afford to lose one vote to pass bills if Democrats are not on board. Gallagher's seat will remain vacant until the next election. Representative John Molinar will take over as the chair of the House Select China Committee.
China is adding a military branch focused on information and cyber warfare. Beijing announced today the new arm is named the Information Support Force, but an expert says this is nothing new.
In fact, these large-scale attacks from China have been occurring continuously and are funded by the Chinese authorities. Previously, they fell under the Strategic Support Force, and now it's just established a new force. But in fact, it's something the Chinese military, they've been doing for decades.
Beijing said the ultimate goal of setting up this new force is to help China fight and win in modern warfare. Worth noting, the arm is led by China's Central Military Commission, which is directly overseen by the regime's leader, Xi Jinping. Beijing's launch comes amid rising Chinese aggression in the Taiwan Strait and South China Sea and strained relations with Washington. Could U.S. utilities go down with the push of a button in Beijing? FBI Director Christopher Wray says Chinese hackers have made their way into critical U.S. infrastructure and are just waiting for the right moment to deal a devastating blow. He said hackers linked to the Chinese regime have gained access to many American companies in sectors ranging from energy and water facilities to telecommunications. Over 20 pipeline operators are also among the targets. Wray gave similar warnings this February, though this time his warning is more direct. Wray said the Chinese hackers' plan is to land low blows against civilian infrastructure to try to induce panic. He added the intent is unclear, but it's aligned with China's broader intent to deter the U.S. from defending Taiwan. And taking action into their own hands, another state is looking to pass its own law dealing with illegal immigration. The Oklahoma House today approved a bill that makes anyone living in Oklahoma as an illegal immigrant guilty of a misdemeanor charge of impermissible occupation. The charge is punishable by up to 1 year in county jail, a fine of up to $500, or both. And after that, anyone found guilty must leave the state. Democrats criticized the measure, saying it's a license for profiling and calling it extreme legislation. The Republican Oklahoma Attorney General Getner Drummond says he backs the bill, saying the accusations against it are a smokescreen and the federal government is failing to act. The bill is similar to an illegal immigration law that passed last week in Iowa and one that's facing a court challenge in Texas. Next, Apple pulling apps from its China App Store after being told to do so by the Chinese Communist Party. And U.S. automakers wary about electric vehicle growth. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's business brief.
All right, thank you very much, Steph. I just want to make a quick comment on what happened in the Middle East and market reaction to it. There is going to be some initial volatility to everything that is going on. That's expected, but I do believe it's going to stabilize soon. So let's wait a couple of days and see what happens. The main thing I wanted to bring your attention to today, Steph, is Apple saying today that it's removed Meta Platform's WhatsApp and Threads from its app store in China. And this is after being ordered to do so by the Chinese regime. And Beijing cited national security concerns for this. Now, on the other hand, Telegram and Signal, also two other foreign messaging apps, were also removed from the store today. And this is according to app tracking firms Qimai and AppMagic. Now, the removal of the four apps potentially suggesting growing intolerance on the part of China's state towards at least some foreign online messaging services that fall outside of its control. It also potentially signals less leeway for Apple in China. Meanwhile, GM and Ford is counting on gas-powered trucks. This is as EV growth slows in the U.S. So the two automakers are facing a challenge in common, actually, when they report first quarter earnings next week. And that challenge is explaining to investors where profit growth will come from in the months ahead as EV growth, as I mentioned earlier, slows down. Now, the slowdown in global electric vehicle demand, intensifying competition, as well as from Chinese automakers and high U.S. borrowing costs, forcing the U.S. automakers to delay investments and ratchet down costs over the past 12 months. You know, with China's economy slowing and U.S. inflation running hot, a macroeconomic growth boost looks a long way off, and that is not good for the companies. This is making the companies like GM and Ford focus on sales of their core gasoline-powered vehicles, from which they derive most of their profit. GM and Ford are scheduled to report results on Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively, next week. That's all from me today. Steph, back to you.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. Have a nice weekend.